Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started with today's Family Technology webinar. If you do need Spanish interpretation, please click on the globe icon and select Spanish at the bottom of the screen. If you need ASL interpretation, our ASL interpreter is spotlighted and you will be able to see her throughout the presentation. Welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today's Family Technology webinar is going to look at elementary English language arts, so grades TK through 6. And we're going to be looking specifically at the Lexia app today and sharing some strategies for how you can use that to support your student at home. My name is Larissa Pineda and I'll be your host today. I'm an Instructional Services Specialist with the Department of Innovation and Learner Engagement. I'm going to let our panelists go ahead and introduce themselves.
Thank you, Larissa. Good morning, caregivers and families. My name is Corey Orlando and I am the Instructional Services Specialist for TK 6th grade, English Language Arts, Spanish Language Arts, and English Language Development.
Good morning, families. I'm happy to join you today. My name is Janet Sewell, and I am the Staff Development Specialist for English Language Arts TK6, and I'm happy to be with you today.
Thank you so much, ladies. Welcome. This morning, our presenters are going to give an overview of the Lexia app. They will talk about some home support resources. We'll then have an opportunity to answer questions. So if you have a question this morning about something that you see or hear, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and submit your question. Then our panelists will talk about strategies to support literacy. So some tips that you can use at home to support your students and also to celebrate their accomplishments. And then we'll have time at the end of the presentation for some more question and answers. So if at any time today you have a question, please let us know using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. I'm going to go ahead and let our presenters get started.
Thank you, Larissa. And again, thank you, families and caregivers, for joining us. My name's Corey Orlando, as I stated earlier, and I'm with the Department of Curriculum and Instruction here at Riverside Unified School District. And we're dedicated to ensuring that all students and families have the necessary resources to support learning during this time. This webinar serves to support families who access Lexia Core5 and PowerUp supplemental literacy apps at home. This morning, we're going to provide information about student resources available through Lexia and how you can celebrate the gains while supporting the gaps. How can students access these supplemental apps? They simply need to go into their Clever account, and if they are a K5 student, they will see this Lexia Core5 button, and once they press it, it will launch them into the app. And for 6th grade students, they have the Lexia PowerUp button that will also launch them into that PowerUp app. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague Janet to talk about Core5 specifically.
Thank you, Corey. Happy to be here, families. As Corey mentioned, we're going to take a look at a couple of apps that are under the Lexia suite. First, we're going to talk about Core5 Lexia Reading. Core5 is the literacy app for students in grades K through computer-based program that has helped millions of students improve their literacy skills. The activities in Core5 support and build on the classroom curriculum that your students engage in during distance learning. It focuses on developing their reading skills in 6 different areas. They may engage in activities around phonological awareness, phonics, the structural analysis of sentences, fluency, vocabulary, and finally, reading comprehension. Students begin the online program at the starting point that is right for them, based on the results of a brief placement activity. Your child may have already accessed this through their Clever portal, as Corey showed you earlier. If your child has not, make sure that they have access to headphones for the placement test, as well as any of the online activities in which they engage. The placement test is automatically accessed when they first log in. It's a one-time adaptive assessment that students should complete independently without adult input. This ensures that the ability level is adapted to your students' proficiency rather than any adult support. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes for them to complete this auto placement. We're going to take a look at some buttons that your students might interact with once they're in the Core5 Lexia reading program. Now, the buttons are displayed here in a single slide. However, your child would see them at various places within the program. First, you'll notice the Apple button that has an icon with an eye in it. It's where you would find teacher information that is shared with you as families. Next is the volume button that provides your opportunity for your child to increase or decrease volume to make sure they hear instructions correctly. If your student needs to hear the instructions again, they can push the Listen Again button noted on the right with the circle around the speaker icon. The Look Back feature provides them with an opportunity to go back and see their previous work. And then the question icon provides any directions that they might need for an activity. And as a family member, you might want to know what they're doing and push that as well to get clear directions. The Exit button is that red X, and it's critical to make sure that your student's work is saved. And we'll show you that a little bit later in our program. Located at the bottom of this screen, you'll see a progress bar for the unit that your child is on. And it will indicate the progress that your child is making towards a unit completion. Once your child gets into Lexia, they will see the student dashboard. After the initial diagnostic assessment, they will be taken through independent modules and units at their level. It's crucial that the student work is generated on their own because it will adapt to their ability level, again, rather than the level of parent or teacher influence. Let's take a look at what the screen might look like for your child. When they get into an activity menu, you'll see that they can navigate across many different tasks, as seen at the top of the screen here. They range from sight word practice, fluency, root word activities, and many more depending on their grade level. You might notice the progress at the top around the circles of each activity. It's in a darker color bar that surrounds the icon. This will let you know the progress that your student is making towards individual activities within this comprehensive unit. When your child completes it, you'll see that the activity bar will be completely filled and it will look like a badge as seen in the yellow here. On the bottom of the menu, there'll be several dots that let you know if there are multiple pages and arrows that they would cursor over to access the content. Now, having this information is great, but we want to take you out live to see what your child will actually see. So let's go out and explore.
This module will review the Lexia Core5 Reading student experience, so you'll have a good idea of what students will need to know and do as they move through the program. First, let's review the structure of the Core5 program. Lexia Core5 Reading is made up of 21 levels. Each level is made up of activities. Each activity is made up of units, and each unit is made up of items. It's important to understand this structure as we review the student experience. When a student logs into Core5, they will start at the student dashboard. The student dashboard provides several important pieces of information related to the student's current week of work. These include the current level, the student's usage goal, the number of minutes the student has worked in the program, the number of units the student has completed. Selecting the arrow button will move the student to the warm-up selection screen. On the screen, the student can choose one of two warm-ups. Each warm-up is 45 seconds long and reviews content from the previous level the student has completed. Warm-ups are designed to encourage automaticity and speed of processing, both essential skills in reading. After completing the warm-up, the student will see a short animation related to the theme of the level before landing on the activity selection screen. Each level of Lexia Core5 Reading takes place in a different part of the world, such as the Swiss Alps, the Egyptian desert, or the Amazon rainforest. The activity selection screen will have several sparkling elements which, when selected, will play a fun fact related to the level theme. These fun facts engage the student with the program and provide contextual information for the elements they will see in the activities. The activity selection screen presents the student with a set of activities to complete. Each icon is associated with one of the core areas of reading and is color-coded based on the area it covers: phonological awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, structural analysis, or comprehension. The ring around each icon is the activity progress ring, which tells students how many units are in the activity and how many they've completed. Students can choose to work on any of the activities. After students complete all units in an activity, the icon will change to a skill badge. To help pace students through a level, the first half of the activities must be completed before the second half is unlocked. When all activities have been completed, the student will see a reward animation and they will be promoted to the next level. An achievement certificate will be available in My Lexia for teachers to print and use to celebrate student success. Additionally, on completion of a level, teachers will see a skill builder assigned to the student in My Lexia to reinforce their online learning. Now, let's see what it looks like when students are working in an activity. Core5 activities adapt based on a student's performance. All students begin in the standard step of instruction. Each time the student answers an item correctly, the unit progress bar fills and there will be small changes in the scene that will represent a completed item. When all items in a unit have been completed, the student will see a reward animation and then move to the next unit in that activity. If the student begins to struggle with an activity, they will move to the guided practice step. The guided practice step provides students with additional support and reduces the complexity of the task. If the student continues to struggle in the guided practice step, they'll move to the instruction step, which provides explicit instruction for the skill. It also provides opportunities for simplified practice before moving the student back to the standard step. Teachers can tell what level of instruction their students are working in by looking at the color of the unit progress bar on the student's screen. The color of this bar is green for the standard step, blue for the guided practice step, and yellow for the instruction step. This color change makes it easier for teachers to see which step a student is working in and intervene when necessary. This three-step instructional branching ensures individualized learning and instruction for every student. If the student branches to the instruction step more than once, the apple in the lower left side of the screen turns red. The student is flagged as struggling in My Lexia, and a specific Lexia lesson is recommended. The other buttons in the student interface are the Adjust Volume button, the Repeat Prompt button, which will replay the prompt for the current item, the Directions button, which replays the directions for the activity, and the Exit button, which will bring students back to their student dashboard. Make sure your students are familiar with these buttons before they start working independently on Core5. If you'd like hands-on experience with the student program, you can.
So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at what your students may see live in Lexia Core5. So I'm going to go into a level 10 grade 2 activity. And this is an example of the warm-up activity that they might see that's 45 seconds long, which is a review of what was done the day before.
Get ready to warm up. Choose.
That's what we just did, and then it will take them
Level 10,
into
an English garden.
video, but eventually it will get them to their activity menu, like this. And as you'll see, it shows the progress here, where students are on each one of these, and they have a choice on which ones they would like to go ahead and work on.
Listen to the word and see how quickly you can find it. Done. Laugh.
And you'll see on the bottom that the progress
Full.
bar will change
Done.
colors if I
Done.
start to struggle.
This is the word done.
And now it's going to go ahead and reteach.
It has the letters D, O, N, E. Done. Find the word you hear. Find done.
So as you see, since I got many wrong, it's going through
Done.
the reteach
D, O, N, E.
and the
Find
extra
the others.
practice.
Done.
When students are done, D-O-N-E, you want to make sure that they click out of each page using the circle, red circle with the X. They will get this here, letting them know that they are going to go ahead and log out. And they want to make sure they log out so that they get credit for the work that they have done.
Thank you, Corey. I think it's always great to see it in action, and hopefully parents had the opportunity to really experience a little bit, at least, what their child would be doing. And it's really important to reiterate the logging out. So Corey took you through this, but you'll notice there are actually 3 times that the student has to click from the activity itself, then the activity menu, and then finally exiting their dashboard. It will then reaffirm that they want to exit, and then they will get the credit that they will need as completion of that particular time. Just to let you know, as family and caregivers, the teacher instruction is targeted to the specific needs of your child. So depending on the difficulty that your child might have on the skill, teachers will engage in face-to-face, one-on-one, or small group instruction to support them. and they're notified when your child struggles. So in the case that Corey showed, there was an on-screen reteach. If the child had still struggled, then the teacher would be notified, and that's information that could be shared with you as well. There are Lexia Connections that are available beyond the teacher interaction. Students will engage in the activities and the games targeting that essential components of reading in the literacy app of Core5. Beyond that, there are some things that families can do to support that, and we'll hit that in the next section of the webinar. But now we're going to take a little bit deeper look into the second app of the Lexia suite, which is PowerUp.
Thank you, Janet. So we just took a look at the K5 component of Lexia. The 6th grade component is called PowerUp, and that's for students, as I said, that are in 6th grade. The program has some similarities, yet it has some differences. So let's go ahead and explore some of those specifics. PowerUp is an app, it's a supplemental app to support and build on the language instruction that's already happening within your student's classroom. It focuses on developing 3 specific reading target skills: word study, grammar, and comprehension. We're going to go ahead and dig in to see what this PowerUp is all about. So if you give me 1 second, I need to go ahead and log into that. As you see, when we go through it, it's a little bit more mature, trying to target those upper elementary students.
Welcome to Lexia PowerUp Literacy. PowerUp is a new kind of program designed to make your life easier and increase your confidence so that you can be more successful. How do we do all this? By helping you with one thing: reading. PowerUp makes reading easier by focusing on 3 things.
So now we're going to go ahead and look at what
Welcome to Lexia PowerUp Literacy. In this video, we will take a look at what students see when they use the program. Students log into PowerUp with their unique username and password. The very first...
And I want to jump in here for our RUSD students. They will log in, as I said at the beginning, using Clever. So they do not have a unique username or password. They will go through Clever.
Thing students see after they log in is an introductory video that explains what PowerUp does and how it can help them read better. After the program introduction, students work through a series of activities to determine where they need to start in the program. PowerUp is organized into 3 strands: comprehension, word study, and grammar, and there are separate auto placements for each strand. The results of these activities ensure that students are placed exactly where they need to be. Let's take a closer look. The comprehension auto placement is first, and typically takes students 30 to 45 minutes to complete. Students can complete the comprehension auto placement over more than 1 session if necessary. The comprehension auto placement is highly adaptive and will take longer for students that do well and progress to more difficult passages. Once the comprehension placement is complete, students start the word study auto placement. Students typically take between 5 to 10 minutes on this task. The word study auto placement should be done in 1 session. The last auto placement activity focuses on grammar, and like word study, typically takes between 5 to 10 minutes to complete. The grammar auto placement should also be completed in 1 session. Once auto placement is complete, students will see a short onboarding video that will explain how to use PowerUp, including choosing activities, using buttons, and viewing progress through the program. Next, and for all subsequent sessions, students begin on their home screen where they can see how much weekly time they need to spend in each of the 3 areas: Weekly usage requirements for each section correspond to where students are. Students will be asked to spend more time if they are in lower levels and less time as they progress into higher levels. Word study. The first time a student enters an area, they will see a short introductory video explaining what the area of study is and why it is important. Students begin working on the activities in their current level, and they must complete all the activities to complete the level. Here we have an example of a typical word study task. The first time the student sorts incorrectly, they are given a prompt. If they still don't sort that word correctly, they see the answer. When students get 2 incorrect answers, they are taken to an instructional step to work on the same skill. Returning back to the home screen, students will see their usage numbers change. Minutes of usage increase in the white circle, and minutes left decrements. Grammar. As with word study, there is a grammar introductory video to explain what grammar is and why it is important. As before, students work through all the activities to complete a level. In some activities, students have access to on-demand instruction. While working in the program, they will be able to click on the Hints button for a menu of resources to help them answer questions. In most cases, they will have access to an instructional video, a graphical representation of the skill, and a Lexia anchor chart. Comprehension. Students are introduced to what comprehension is and why it is important the first time they work in the section. In each level of comprehension, students have 4 sets of activities. In a comprehension activity, students see videos to draw them into the activity, pre-learn vocabulary, read, and answer questions to demonstrate their understanding. There is embedded instruction and the option to hear the passage read. Students who do well enough on a skill get to skip the additional instruction and practice, and they finish the activity early. Students earn a streak by answering at least 5 questions in a row correctly. Completing work allows students to earn a streak shield to protect their streak in case they get an answer wrong. Students love sharing their highest streaks with their peers. Students can monitor their progress in the program and see their accomplishments in the progress section. At the top, they can view their streak records, the number of levels they've completed, and their total time using PowerUp. Students can also monitor the skills and overall progress in their current level in each of the 3 areas. Students can see how many levels are left until they know everything. Lexia PowerUp Literacy, where students take control of their learning.
All right, and I want to take you in to do a brief overview of something that your students might see.
Welcome to...
So we'll look at a word study activity. Sight word identification.
This task is timed. Look at the sight word and choose the word that matches it. Where? Everywhere.
So again, notice
Another.
the progress bar on the bottom as I start to get ones wrong.
Another. Another.
It should change color.
Another.
Or just continue. Let's see.
Another.
All right, I'm going to move on.
Above. Whose? Whose?
Then you'll see the buttons up here.
This task is timed.
It gives you directions.
Look at the sight word and choose the word that matches it. Whose?
So there's different buttons and things to do as they go through.
Through.
And
There.
it's very similar to what you saw in Core 5. Again, the students will be given these activities. I had to choose them because I'm in educator mode here, but everything goes straight to the student as soon as they log in based on their auto placement, and also based on their activity from the previous week. So now we're going to look at a couple of those features that were shown in the video just to reiterate them. So just as you saw in Core 5, the first time students ever log into PowerUp, they will have an auto placement as well. This is a little bit different in that it has 3 separate assessments. The first one is a comprehension assessment that will take about 30 to 45 minutes. The word study assessment will take about 5 to 10, as well as the grammar. As it said in the video, as students progress in the assessment, it will continue to go. It follows them. So the more that they know, the longer the assessment will be. A couple things for you and your students to look out for. In the comprehension section, if your students are working in that, there is a listening mode where students can listen to the audio of parts of the comprehension strand. As students get 5 consecutive answers correct, they will get a streak, and then they will get a shield. So that is a way for students to monitor and celebrate their progress. And then on the bottom are those progress bars. So if you are watching your student or you're checking in on your student as they are working on this independently, you can easily see how they're doing in this particular skill. If you see a green bar at the bottom, that means they are right on track at the standard step. If you see a yellow bar, that lets you know that they've needed some extra instruction, and the program will go ahead and provide that. Another piece.
Now try to beat your time and still get them correct.
It's still running. See, I didn't do what I said. We needed to make sure to log out. I apologize. So another important piece in PowerUp is it's trying to build some student autonomy and ownership of goals. And it does this in 2 ways. When students first log on, they see their dashboard that shows their progress and how many minutes left for their goal for each of the 3 components. And then there's also a self-monitoring page where students can see their goals and their progress. This is what this progress page looks like. And here's the student dashboard. So when students log on, they will get their student dashboard. The first thing it does is it welcomes the student with their name, and it lets you know how many other students are also working in PowerUp at the same time. And then they can go ahead and look across the 3 different pieces that are within PowerUp to see how many lessons they have completed based on this number right here in the circle, and then how many minutes they have left to reach their time goal. Each student is given a particular time goal each week by the program based on their activity from the week before. And students can absolutely work above that goal if they want to. So now looking at the progress tile. Students can take a look at the first one at the top. It shows their streaks, levels completed, and time in the program. This can help students work on time management skills. They know what their goal is, and they need to plan to go ahead and meet that goal by the end of the week. It also manages weekly goals. It shows where they are, levels complete into hitting that goal, and then it can monitor progress throughout. So this is just the top of the progress tile. This is where students would want to work on monitoring their time. They've been on there for 6 minutes and they have completed 2 units. And this lets them know how many levels they have completed in all. And then here is their streak. Both PowerUp and Core5 also have a very robust resource hub. And in the next section, we're going to go ahead and show you where you can access resources to help your students in their literacy skills. So we're going to go ahead and open it up for question and answer regarding the overview of either Core5 or PowerUp.
Thank you so much, Corey and Janet. That was a lot of really great information. Families, if you have any questions about something that you saw in this portion of the presentation, please let us know using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Or if you would like to see something again, maybe you would like the presenters to review something, go ahead and let us know using that same button. And we'll leave it open for just a couple of minutes in case there are some questions.
Larissa, this is Janet, and while we're waiting for the Q&A to be populated, I just wanted to bring up one question that often comes up when parents and caregivers are asking how they can support their children at home. They ask, the question is like, what can we do? Can we actually help them with the activities? I think it's really important to reiterate that we want the children to do the work on their own to make sure that the program adapts to your child's level of ability. Otherwise, they might engage in some frustration if they get that loving support that we want to offer as parents. So just to reiterate that this is stuff that should be done at your child's ability level, and it will adapt. And as Corey showed, it will provide them with some instruction online as well to help them in the reteaching component.
Thank you, Janet. That is such a great reminder. Yes, go ahead, Steve.
Larissa, we do have a question that says, is this available for our DLI students as well?
Yes, so this is available to all of our K-6 students, regardless of program, whether it's DLI or not, or if they are virtual students or home-based students or in-person students. So all students do have access through their Clever account.
Thank you, Corey. And I know you mentioned using headphones to take the assessments. If students don't have those at home, where could they get some?
That's a really good question. So if students do not have headphones, we ask that you contact your school site to get some, because they should have headphones for students there.
Great, thank you very much. Families, we are going to go ahead and continue with the presentation. Please, though, if you have any questions at all, let us know using that Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, and we will be happy to answer those again at the end of the presentation. Remember, if there's something that you would like Janet or Corey to demonstrate again or share with you again, they would be happy to do so at the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Larissa. So we're going to move on to what can you do at home to support the gaps? And we're also going to show you how we can celebrate the gains that your students make. So there, like I spoke before, there's a very robust resource hub that I'm going to show to you in a minute. But first, I'm going to have Janet go ahead and talk about communication with the teacher.
Thank you, Corey. As my colleague mentioned, it's important to know how, as family members, you can support your children at home as they engage in this independent activity with the Lexia app, whether it's Core5 or PowerUp. The key to that is really the communication with the teacher. As we showed earlier, teachers get notified when your child needs support in a particular skill area. But you might want to know what you can do as well. So here are some questions that might guide that conversation with the teacher. What skills may I support? And that way you can actually do some reinforcing at home outside of the Lexia app as well. You might ask, is your child meeting their usage requirement minutes? because sometimes students may just get lost in that background activity and click on information, and it looks like they're on it for a long time, but they're actually not getting the usage minutes that are required. Another question is, what is my child's progress? Are they working above, in, or below their current grade level? What is the likelihood that my child will meet the end of the year grade level goals? That might provide you with information on how much you should engage in conversation with them and or further the communication with the teacher. And then finally, you might ask, what lesson or level is your student currently on if you're not able to get that information by looking at the screen itself? And as Corey mentioned, and we've noted before, is that Core5 has a school-to-home resource hub that's available for you to access important information. We're going to go take a look at some of those resources in a minute, but this link will also be available for you after the webinar, and that's the lexialearningresources.com, lexia-at-home.html. And the address is noted here on the screen.
Thank you, Janet. And I believe we are going to be able to drop that in the chat if you want to have that link for you, but we will also provide it at the end as well. So I'm going to take you, once you click on that link, you will see it says at the top, Lexia at-Home Resources Hub, and there's a tab for Core5, and there's also a tab for PowerUp. So we're going to take a look at the Core5 resources here. One thing to note is it says these resources are available in all of these languages as well. I believe that might just be for the overview, but when you go into each specific piece here, you'll notice many of these are also translated in Spanish. So we're going to start by looking at the Lexia Read at Home activities. It explains what it is here, and I'm going to go ahead and take you into a second grade one. And what it is it's basically a literacy newsletter. And it has many different activities that you can do with your students. I believe most of them are offline. So we know, especially in the time that we're in right now, our students are online a whole lot. So these are some ways that you can engage with your students to help build their literacy skills. And there's many, many different activities such as acting it out, scavenger hunts, getting moving. So there's one of these for each grade level, and they are in English and Spanish. The next one here are these student choice boards. This is kind of like a tic-tac-toe type of document. So I'll go into a third grade one. And again, it's filled with many more activities that your students can do to build literacy. Again, most of them are offline activities, but you can decide how you would like to use this. Maybe students get some sort of incentive when they fill in, 5 in a row or something like that. But there's lots of different things here, such as read a new book and write a review, describe what you liked and what you didn't like. Share your review with a friend or family member. So again, there's a lot of literacy activities here that you and your students can do at home. That is available in both English and Spanish, and these are PDFs. So if you want to, you can go ahead and print them out. Otherwise, you can look at it on the screen and do it with your child. The next section, these are called Lexia Skill Builders. There's an overview here of what they are about. And I want you to take note that there is an option for expanded version and classic version. Your students have the expanded version of Lexia, which has 21 levels. So if you click here, it has the different levels. So this is important, as Janet said, if you're talking with your student's teacher to find out what level they are on, or when you're looking at your student's screen as they're working through, you can find their level. But you would just go ahead and click there, view the PDF, and it's extra worksheets to work on the skills that students are working on. And as you will see, there are many, 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 many pages for you to have your students work with. You decide how much you want to do and what you want students to do here. The next one is the Lexia Connections, or sorry, the Lexia Lessons here. Again, there's an overview. There's suggested Lexia lessons for you to go ahead and look at. There's a checklist. But here's where if you've talked with your student's teacher and they've let you know what specific area your student can use extra practice in, you can help students practice and dig deeper. So if your students need extra practice in vocabulary, they can select a Lexia lesson, and based on exactly what has been pinpointed, you can go in and find a lesson. So this is consonant, vowel, consonant, word categories. Again, it's a PDF. This one has 6 pages. And these are things that's completely scripted. If you want to go ahead and guide your students in the lesson, this is the direct instruction that you would give. It's written out with all of the questions and things to do. Then there's guided practice on what you can do with your students, and then independent practice so your students can go ahead and work on it by themselves. And then there's also a wrap up to go ahead and check your students' understanding. So it's basically a lesson plan scripted out for you if you want to go ahead and continue working on those skills with your students at home. The next piece, there are additional Core5 resources. So here's an at-home activity sheet. It's just a quick sheet based on your student's level that gives a quick suggestion of what you can do with your students. So it has all 21 levels, and it looks like 1 activity per level. That's available in English and Spanish. Down here, there are letter tiles and flashcards. So if your students would like help in building words and they do not already have the letter tiles that may have been sent home by their teacher, here are some letter tiles that can be printed out and cut, and you can have your students go ahead and make different words. Keyword picture cards. Again, students can build words. Sometimes having the picture cue is helpful for them. And you can go ahead and look, there's flashcards as well. I spoke about not only supporting the gaps, but celebrating the gains. So here are achievement certificates that you can print out for your students based on whatever you want. So again, they're in English and Spanish. These are different than the certificates that your teachers might give students from Lexia. So if you click into it, you'll see it's very general. So you can go ahead and print it out. Or look, you can type right in it. So I can type my student's name, has something to be proud of. You know, completed all Lexia lessons this week. Okay, and you can go ahead and sign and date it. You can print it out. If you don't have a printer, you can somehow get it to them digitally, but a way to celebrate their gains. Quickly popping into the PowerUp tab, you'll see very similar products. So they have the read at home activities. It says adolescent literacy building activities, again in English and Spanish. So they have similar things, but apparently built a little more for the adolescents. We have Beat the Clock, Acting It Out, Art Studio. So again, different ways to engage with literacy that hopefully is going to build that engagement for your students. It also has Student Choice Board. It has the skill builders, the Lexia lessons. We're not going to do the UK version because we're not there. And then in the additional resources, something that is different in PowerUp is it has these anchor charts. So these are charts that summarize the skills that are taught. So if you click here, it gives you a chart for each of the 3 components in PowerUp. So again, if you've talked to your student's teacher or you've seen what they are working on, you can go ahead and pull up. So for example, word study. I can go ahead and pull up the word study anchor chart, and it has, this one is 78 pages. So you can go ahead and dig in and find what your students need extra support in. Okay.
Corey, thank you. I just wanted to note, again, a lot of resources that you have there, but for parents, I want them to know really it isn't required that you know how to do those lessons as a teacher would. In fact, those home activities have games that you might play with your child. For example, finding words that have the same letter sound as a word that you start with, like in pink, they might look for objects that begin with that same sound. For example, they can go on a treasure hunt looking for words that match or rhyme. So there are some activities that you can do. Just really dig into those home activities that are there and find those that are going to be engaging and fun for you to support your child's literacy goals.
Thank you, Janet. Yes, and you know, like I said, they're on the computer a lot. They may be doing a lot of things that look like worksheets. So if you look at those other activities to engage in conversation with your students, that would probably engage them with you in literacy. So thank you. PowerUp also has certificates. They look a little different. They have an awesome lightning bolt in it that's a little bit more for the adolescents, but also we need to still celebrate our wins with our students. So that is there for them as well. So with that, I believe we have gone through and shown all of the pieces within that site. I saw that it was dropped into the chat. And with that, I think we have a little bit of time if there is any Q&A on those home resources.
Thank you, Corey. Families, I will also put a link to those resources on our website. So that's the riversideunified.org webpage under the Family Technology Resources tab. We do have some feedback from one of our families. Thank you very much for an excellent presentation. So thank you, Janet and Corey. This has been very helpful for our families. And if you do have any questions, please go ahead and let us know. Maybe you want to know about additional strategies you can use with your child that are not technology related, or perhaps you would like to see something again. So please use the question and answer button on your screen to type in your question for us. Thank you.
And thank you for that feedback, and thank you for joining us.
We do have somebody with their hand raised in the attendees area. If you can just place your question in the question and answers box, that would be great and greatly appreciated.
Great, thank you. Some more positive feedback from our families. They say, excellent, thank you so much. So thank you, Janet and Corey. It sounds like this morning's presentation was very helpful and our families are walking away with some good strategies. At this time, we are going to go ahead and wrap things up if there are no last minute questions. Thank you so much for joining us today. You will be able to find a recording of today's webinar along with the resources that were shared on our website. That's riversideunified.org under the Family Technology Resources tab. Thank you again for joining us today. We greatly appreciate it. We know you have busy lives and we appreciate you taking time out to be with us this morning and learn some additional strategies for supporting your students. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.